I found Donna's camera on a January morning so cold the barn door fought me. My breath hung white in the air as I pried the latch free, metal burning through my work gloves. Inside, the smell of diesel and old hay mixed with something sharper. The particular cold of a building that's been closed up too long. I was organizing her tools, 6 weeks after we'd buried her. The toolbox tipped when I moved it, and a hidden compartment I'd never noticed sprang open. Inside, wrapped in one of my old flannel shirts, sat her Nikon. I drove it to Rita's photo lab downtown that afternoon. She'd been developing our pictures since before we were married. Family gatherings, harvests, that trip to Yellowstone in '98. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The chemical smell from her darkroom made my eyes water. "Give me 3 days," Rita said, handling the camera carefully. 3 days later, I returned. She stopped me before I reached the counter, her face strange. Behind her, 3 church ladies pretended not to watch. "Mr. Brennan," Rita said quietly, "are you sure you want to see these?" The first photo she pulled from the developing tray showed my wife in a motel doorway with a man, suitcases packed behind them. My hands shook taking the envelope. The walk to my truck felt like a mile. By the time I reached the parking lot, the whole town would know. Rita tapped the photo's white border where the timestamp printed. "Hal, when exactly did Donna die?" The camera had been in that barn compartment the whole time. I'd walked past that toolbox every morning for 6 weeks, feeding cattle, checking equipment, moving through the rhythms that kept a man upright when grief tried to flatten him. That January morning, the furnace in the house had quit again. I'd come out to the barn looking for my propane torch, thinking I could coax the pilot light back to life before the pipes froze. Donna's toolbox sat where it always had. Red paint faded to pink in spots, her initials still visible on the lid, DLB, Donna Louise Brennan. When I lifted it to check underneath, the whole thing shifted wrong. Too light. The bottom panel slid sideways, revealing a space I'd never known existed. Just the camera, wrapped careful, and a smell like her hand lotion, that lavender stuff she bought from the farmer's market. I sat on the cold concrete floor holding it, my back against a tractor tire that still held yesterday's freeze. The wind found every gap in the barn siding, a low whistle that never quite stopped. 42 years I'd known this woman. Thought I'd known her anyway. The Nikon was older than our marriage. She'd bought it used in '85, learned to develop her own film for a while before the chemicals got too expensive. Always said photography taught you to really see things, to notice what you'd otherwise miss. I drove into town around noon, the camera on the passenger seat like a loaded gun. Rita Cordova's photo lab sat between Murphy's Hardware and what used to be Dale's Auto, though Dale's place had been empty since August, windows soaped over. Downtown Millfield looked like a jaw with half its teeth missing. For lease signs in most windows. The young people left for Columbus or Cincinnati, and the old ones just held on. Rita looked up when the bell over the door chimed. She was maybe 50, glasses on a chain around her neck, fingers stained yellowish from darkroom chemicals. We'd gone to school together, back when the school still had all 12 grades in one building. "Hal," her voice went soft the way everyone's did now. 6 weeks wasn't long enough for people to stop using their funeral voice. "How are you managing?" "Getting by." I set the camera on her counter, careful, like it might break. "Found this in Donna's things. Wondering if you could develop whatever's on it?" Rita picked it up, turned it over in her hands. The old Nikon. She loved this thing. She popped open the film compartment, checked inside. Looks like she shot the whole roll. When did she? November 16th. The date came out automatic. I'd said it so many times. To the sheriff, to the insurance company, to everyone at the funeral home. "I'm sorry." Rita's fingers found the film advance, testing it. She was a careful driver. That stretch of Highway 12, though. Those curves. They'd said her brakes failed. Just one of those things that happen with older vehicles, even when you maintain them right. She'd been driving to a veterinary conference in Missoula, hit the guardrail at 50 miles an hour, where the road bent around Sawyer's Ridge. The sheriff said she probably didn't suffer. I didn't want to think about it. That's why I'd avoided this camera for 6 weeks. "Give me 3 days," Rita said. "I'll take care with them." I nodded, turned to go. "Hal," Rita's voice stopped me at the door. "My mother got scammed by a financial advisor once. Man took everything, her house, her savings, her dignity. Turned out he'd done it to 6 other widows in 3 counties. She adjusted her glasses. "I'm just saying, sometimes there are things in photographs, things people don't expect to find. It's just memories, Rita. Last pictures before the accident." "Of course." But something in her expression made my chest tight. 3 days, I walked Millfield's empty streets, killing time. The Methodist church still had Christmas wreaths up, brown and brittle. The coffee shop had closed last month, another casualty. At the county clerk's office, I saw a sign in the window about agricultural permits. Mine needed renewing. Spring planting deadline was April 30th. 60 days of winter left to get through, then the work that defined whether a farm lived or died for another year. That's what the calendar on Rita's wall had shown, the one by her cash register. April 30th, circled in red marker, planting season. The deadline that separated the farmers from the foreclosed? When I returned 3 days later, Rita was waiting. The church ladies were at her counter again. Lenora Briggs and 2 others whose names I could never keep straight. They were supposed to be buying frames, but mostly they were watching me. Rita's face had changed. She held a manila envelope, but she didn't hand it over. Most of these are beautiful, Hal. Real professional quality. The barn, the cattle, that old oak by your eastern fence. She paused. But there's something you need to see. In the back. The fluorescent lights buzzed. The chemical smell from her darkroom was sharper than I remembered. Rita led me past the counter, past the church ladies whose whispers stopped dead, into the small space where she worked. Photos hung from a line, like laundry. The first ones showed what I expected. Our land, familiar and loved. Then they changed. The later photos showed angles I didn't recognize, taken from behind trees from inside her truck with the lens pointed through the windshield. Surveillance shots. A man and a woman at a motel. The Starlight, out on Route 9. I knew it. The kind of place that rented by the hour or the week. No questions either way. The woman was Donna. The man was Marcus Vale. I'd met Marcus twice. Once at the bank, when Donna said she needed help with some investment paperwork after her mother died. Once at church, where he'd shaken my hand and called me sir and worn a suit that cost more than my truck. He was maybe 40, young enough to be her son. Financial advisor, he'd said. Specialized in estate planning. Jesus, I whispered. Rita stood beside me, quiet. Through the doorway, I could hear the church ladies pretending not to listen. The photos told a story. Marcus and Donna outside the motel room. Donna laughing, her head thrown back. Marcus's hand on her waist, then one that made my stomach drop. Donna with suitcases, packed and ready. Marcus loading them into his truck. His truck had a logo on the door, Vale Financial Advisors. I'm sorry, Hal. Rita's voice barely carried over the fluorescent buzz. I picked up the photo with the suitcases, stared at it until my eyes burned. She was leaving me. I don't know, but these were taken over several weeks, September through early November. Rita pointed at dates printed on the borders. She was documenting something. The bell over the front door chimed. The church ladies leaving, their footsteps quick. By sunset, the whole town would know. Poor Hal Brennan, 64 years old. His wife was stepping out on him right before she died. Maybe that's why she drove into that guardrail. Guilt will make you careless. There's one more thing. Rita pulled another photo from the line. Look at the timestamp. November 20th, 4 days after Donna died. That can't be right, I said. Camera must have the date wrong. Maybe. Rita didn't sound convinced. Or maybe someone else took these. After. When I took the envelope, walked out through the shop. The smell of developer solution followed me into the parking lot. The cold air bit at my face, a wind coming down from Canada that promised snow by evening. Road salt crunched under my boots. By the time I reached my truck, my hands were shaking so hard I dropped the keys twice. I drove home in a fog. The farm looked different pulling into the driveway. Not like the sanctuary Donna and I had built over 38 years, but like a crime scene. The barn where I'd found the camera. The house where she'd lived a life I apparently knew nothing about. Inside, the phone was ringing. Mr. Brennan? A woman's voice. Professional. This is Sarah Chin from First Midwest Bank. I'm calling about an overdraft notice on account number ending in 4782. I don't have an account ending in 4782. A pause. Computer keys clicking. According to our records, this is a joint account opened in March of last year. Current balance is negative $47,000. The kitchen tilted. I sat down hard in one of the chairs Donna and I had bought at an estate sale in '96. That's not possible. The account shows regular withdrawals throughout November. The final withdrawal was November 10th, which depleted the balance and triggered overdraft protection. Since then, the fees have been accumulating. November 10th, 6 days before Donna died. Who's the other person on the account? More clicking. The co-signer is listed as Marcus Vale. I couldn't breathe right. The walls of my kitchen, walls Donna had painted yellow because she said it reminded her of sunshine, pressed in close. Mr. Brennan, are you still there? How much was withdrawn? The final withdrawal was $47,000. Cashier's check. Made out to Vale Financial Services, LLC. Our savings. The money from Donna's mother's estate. The cushion we kept for bad crop years, for equipment repairs, for the someday emergencies that always came. Gone. Mr. Brennan, we'll need you to come in and sign some paperwork. There's also the matter of a refinance application your wife submitted in October. The loan officer needs to discuss the terms with you before we can... I hung up. Sat there in my kitchen with the phone in my hand, listening to the furnace cycle on and off. Outside, the wind rattled the windows. Snow was starting. I could see it through the glass, small flakes that would turn heavy by midnight. Donna's coffee mug still sat by the sink. I hadn't been able to wash it. Lipstick mark on the rim, faint and personal. For 6 weeks, I'd looked at that mug every morning and felt the loss like a physical wound. Now I looked at it and wondered what else I'd missed. The phone rang again. I let it go to the machine. Hal, it's Rita. I wanted you to know, Lenora and those ladies, they were already talking in the parking lot. I'm sorry, I tried to... Just call me if you need anything. The machine clicked off. The house went silent, except for the wind in the furnace and the sound of my own breathing. On the table, the photos spread out like evidence. My wife with another man. My wife with packed suitcases. My wife's signature, probably, on bank papers I'd never seen. The photo with the impossible timestamp sat on top of the stack. November 20th, 4 days after she was supposed to be dead. I didn't sleep that night, just sat at the kitchen table while the snow piled up outside, 8 inches by morning. The photos spread in front of me like a puzzle I couldn't solve. Around midnight, I noticed something I'd missed before. In the photo of Marcus loading the suitcases, you could see his license plate. Not clearly enough to read the whole thing, but enough. At dawn, I called Rita. I was hoping you'd call, she said. Can you come by the shop before I open? The roads hadn't been plowed yet. My truck slid twice on the way into town, but I made it. Rita was waiting at the back door, already unlocked. Inside, she'd set up her workstation with equipment I'd never seen before. A magnifying glass on a stand. What looked like a jeweler's loupe. A laptop showing something technical, numbers and graphs. I couldn't stop thinking about those timestamps, Rita said. She was wearing the same clothes as yesterday. I don't think she'd slept either. I pulled the negatives, checked them under magnification. She handed me her reading glasses, positioned the magnifying glass over one of the negatives. See these tiny numbers along the edge? That's EXIF data. Every digital camera embeds information in the image. Date, main camera settings, sometimes even GPS coordinates if the camera has that feature. I looked where she pointed. The numbers were so small I could barely make them out even with the magnification. This photo, Rita tapped the one dated November 20th, was definitely taken after the others. The sequence numbers don't lie. But here's what's interesting. She pulled up something on her laptop. Donna's camera is old enough that it still uses mechanical film, no digital metadata. Someone could have changed the date setting on the camera body itself. Why would they do that? To create confusion, maybe. Or... Rita adjusted her glasses. Hal, does Donna's camera have 2 memory card slots? I don't know. I never used it. Rita picked up the Nikon from her counter, examined it carefully, pressed a button on the side I wouldn't have noticed. A small compartment popped open, empty. Dual card cameras let you back up photos automatically. Professionals use them so they never lose a shot. Rita's voice got quiet. Hal, I think there might be a second memory card, and I think someone removed it. The fluorescent lights hummed. Outside, I could hear a snowplow grinding past on Main Street. My mother, Rita said. When that financial advisor scammed her, she died without a penny. Died in a county nursing home on Medicaid. I couldn't save her. Couldn't even prove what he'd done because she'd signed all the papers willingly. She looked at me directly. I can't charge you for this work, Hal, but I can help you figure out what your wife was documenting. If you want to know. I thought about that. Did I want to know? Or would it be easier to believe Donna had just been unhappy, had found someone younger, had died before she could leave me? Let the town gossip for a few months, then forget? But there was the bank account, the $47,000, the refinance application I'd never signed. I want to know, I said. Rita smiled, tired but determined. Then let's start with that license plate. She pulled up the photo on her computer, zoomed in on Marcus's truck. The plate was partially obscured by the angle, but you could make out most of it. Rita wrote down what she could see, filled in the possible combinations for the unclear digits. We need someone at the DMV, I said, or someone at the county clerk's office. Rita pulled out a phone book, the real paper kind that nobody used anymore, flipped to the government pages. Let's try the direct approach first. She called, put the phone on speaker. Appleton County Clerk, this is Joyce speaking. Hi, Joyce. This is Rita Cordova from the Photo Lab. I'm working on an insurance case, trying to track down a vehicle from a photograph. Any chance you could help me run a partial plate? A pause. That's really more of a police matter, Rita. I know, but the sheriff's been out with the flu, and this is time sensitive. Estate settlement. The family's trying to identify a vehicle that might have been involved in an accident last November. Another pause, then. What's the partial? Rita read off the numbers and letters, computer keys clicking. I've got 3 possibilities. 2 are sedans registered in Columbus. One's a pickup truck registered to Vail Financial Services, LLC, here in Appleton County. Rita and I looked at each other. The pickup, Rita said. Do you have an owner name? Marcus Vail. Address is listed as 445 Commerce Drive. That's the business park out by the highway. Thank you, Joyce. You're a lifesaver. Rita, Joyce's voice dropped. Be careful with this one. Marcus Vail's cousin works here in the office, Trevor Vail. He's in property records. If you're looking into Marcus, Trevor will know about it by end of day. The line went dead. Rita and I sat there in the quiet of her shop. The snow had stopped outside. Weak winter sunlight came through the front windows, making the dust in the air visible. So now we know, I said. Donna was documenting Marcus, building some kind of case, and someone in the county clerk's office is related to him. Rita nodded slowly. The question is, what was she documenting? An affair or something else? My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Stop asking questions about things that don't concern you. Marcus Vail showed up at my farm 2 days later. I was in the barn, trying to get the old Massey Ferguson started. The battery had died over winter, and I needed to charge it if I had any hope of getting the fields ready by planting season. The smell of motor oil and old grease filled the cold air. My breath made clouds every time I exhaled. I heard the car before I saw it. Expensive engine sound, smooth and quiet. A black Lexus pulled into my driveway like it owned the place. Marcus got out wearing a suit that probably cost more than my tractor repairs. He picked his way across the muddy yard in dress shoes that would be ruined by the time he reached the barn. Mr. Brennan, he smiled. All teeth, no warmth. I hope I'm not interrupting. And I set down the wrench I'd been holding. What do you want, Marcus? I heard you've been asking questions about me, making accusations. He stepped into the barn, looking around like he was appraising the property. I wanted to clear the air. Donna and I had a professional relationship. I was helping her with some investment strategies, estate planning, that's all. In a motel room? His smile never wavered. Donna preferred to meet outside the traditional office setting. She said it helped her think more clearly about financial matters. Some clients are like that, with suitcases packed. I wouldn't know anything about that. Marcus pulled a leather folder from inside his jacket. But since you brought up Donna's affairs, and I mean that in the business sense, there's something you should see. He handed me papers, legal documents, the kind with too many words and not enough plain English. That's a quitclaim deed, Marcus said, signed by your wife on November 14th, 2 days before her accident. She transferred 50% ownership of this property to Vail Financial Services as collateral on an investment loan. The paper shook in my hands. Donna's signature sat at the bottom, notarized and official. That's not possible. It's perfectly legal. The notary's stamp is right there. The county has the filed copy. Marcus took a step closer. Hal, I understand you're grieving. But Donna understood something you apparently don't. This farm is dying. Small operations like this, they're not viable anymore. She was trying to secure your financial future. Make some smart investments. Diversify. By signing away half my land? Our land, Marcus corrected, legally speaking. And there's more. He pulled out another document. This is an eviction notice. You have 60 days to vacate the premises or buy out Vail Financial's interest. Current market value is approximately $600,000. Your half comes to $300,000, plus the outstanding loan balance of $47,000 that Donna withdrew. So, $347,000, and the farm stays yours. The barn spun. I put a hand on the tractor to steady myself. Of course, if you don't have that kind of liquidity, and let's be honest, Hal, you don't, we can discuss other arrangements. I have investors interested in this property. Development potential. The house would have to come down, but the land itself is valuable. Get out. I'm trying to help you. Marcus's voice went hard. Donna understood that this farm was wasted on a man your age. She knew you'd never adapt, never modernize. She was trying to save you from yourself. Get off my property. Marcus smiled again. Put the papers back in his folder. I'll accept the eviction notice. That he left on the tractor seat. 60 days, Hal. After that, the sheriff will escort you out. He turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and one more thing. Your agricultural permit application? The one you need to renew by April 30th? I'd check on that if I were you. Paperwork has a way of getting lost in county offices, especially when people don't have friends in the right places. He walked back to his Lexus, shoes caked in mud, and drove away. I stood in the barn, holding that eviction notice until my hands went numb from the cold. That afternoon, I went to town. Needed to see people, hear human voices, convince myself the world still made sense. The diner was full. It usually was on Fridays. I took a seat at the counter. The smell of coffee and frying bacon should have been comforting. Instead, my stomach turned. Pastor Webb was 3 stools down. He saw me, got up, came over. Hal. He settled onto the stool beside me, his face full of careful concern. I've been hearing some troubling things about you making accusations, spreading stories about Donna and that financial advisor. They're not stories. I have photographs, and photographs can be misinterpreted. Grief does strange things to perception, Hal. Makes us see conspiracies where there's just ordinary life. He put a hand on my shoulder. Donna was a good woman, a faithful wife. She had some business dealings, that's all. It's not fair to her memory to twist that into something ugly. Behind the counter, Lenora Briggs was watching us. She'd been friends with Donna, part of the church quilting circle. Now her face held something like pity mixed with judgment. I saw her, Lenora said, loud enough for half the diner to hear. Last October, she came to circle meeting with a bruise on her arm. Said she'd fallen, but she let the implication hang. I never touched Donna. Of course not, Pastor Webb said quickly. Lenora, that's not helpful. Hal, what I'm trying to say is, maybe it's time to see someone. Talk to a counselor. This paranoia, these accusations, they're signs of unprocessed grief. The church can help arrange. I don't need a counselor. I need people to listen. We are listening. Pastor Webb's voice got firmer. And what we're hearing is a man who's lost his way. Who's creating elaborate stories to avoid accepting a simple tragic truth? Your wife died in an accident. That's hard enough without making it into some kind of conspiracy. The diner had gone quiet, everyone watching, judging. I stood up, left money on the counter for coffee I hadn't drunk. Outside, the February wind cut through my jacket. I drove home through empty streets, past for lease signs and boarded windows. At the mailbox, I found what Marcus had promised. My agricultural permit application, returned. Stamped incomplete documentation in red ink. Planting season was 67 days away. Without that permit, I couldn't access federal crop insurance. Couldn't get the bank loans I needed for seed and fertilizer. Couldn't plan at all. Marcus had me locked in from every angle. Legal, financial, social, bureaucratic. The farm my grandfather had cleared by hand, that my father had modernized, that I'd run for 42 years, gone in 60 days, unless I could come up with money I didn't have. I spent the weekend going through every document in the house. Bank statements, insurance papers, the deed to the property, looking for something I'd missed, some way out of the trap Marcus had built. Sunday afternoon, a truck I didn't recognize pulled into the driveway. My son Clayton got out. I hadn't seen him in 2 years. He looked older than 35, too thin, the way people get when they've been sick or struggling. His hands had the calluses of construction work, and he moved carefully, like someone who'd learned not to make sudden movements. Dad. He stayed by the truck, uncertain. Clayton. I heard about Mom. I'm sorry I didn't make it to the funeral. I couldn't. The truth was, I'd been relieved he hadn't come. Hadn't wanted to explain to people why my son looked the way he did, why he couldn't hold down a job, why he'd disappeared for months at a time. The addiction had taken him places I couldn't follow, and I'd stopped trying years ago. What brings you here now? He flinched at the tone. I heard there was life insurance money. Thought maybe he trailed off, seeing my face. Never mind. I shouldn't have come. No. Something in me shifted. Stay. I could use the help, actually. Clayton looked suspicious, but he followed me into the house. The kitchen smelled like the coffee I'd been drinking for 3 days straight. Papers covered every surface. Clayton picked up the eviction notice, read it slowly. Jesus, Dad. What happened? I told him. All of it. The photos, the bank account, the quitclaim deed. Marcus and his threats, the town turning against me. Clayton listened without interrupting, his expression getting darker. That's fraud, he said finally. Clear as day. Mom wouldn't have signed that deed without telling you. But she did sign it. I saw the notary stamp. Then the notary was in on it, or Mom was coerced, or... Clayton set the paper down. Dad, you need a lawyer, someone who can fight this. Can't afford one. Not after Marcus cleaned out the savings. Clayton was quiet for a moment. Then, what do you need me to do? I looked at my son. The boy I'd taught to drive tractors and check oil levels and read weather patterns. The man who'd broken my heart a dozen times with his choices. Now asking how he could help. The attic, I said. Donna kept baby boxes up there. Old papers, receipts, records. If she was building a case against Marcus, there might be something that shows what she was really doing. We spent the afternoon in the attic, cold up there, with drafts coming through gaps in the roof. The smell of old insulation and dust. Clayton worked methodically, checking each box, each folder. Dad, his voice came from the far corner under the eaves. Found something. He held up a cell phone. Cheap, prepaid model, not the iPhone Donna had always used. I turned it on. The battery was almost dead, but it had enough charge to show the text messages. All to one number. No name attached. No V18. Hal still doesn't suspect. Deed is done. Literally. Navi 12. Account emptied. Meeting at usual place tomorrow. Nav 8. Can you really get me immunity if this goes south? Nav 3. I'm scared. What if he finds out before we're ready? My hands started shaking. Clayton took the phone, kept scrolling. There's more. Goes back months. He looked at me. Dad, I don't think Mom was the victim here. Well, I couldn't speak. The attic felt too small, too close. Clayton pocketed the phone. We need to show this to someone. Police maybe, or a lawyer? After we finished looking, my voice came out rough. There might be more. We kept searching. In a box of Donna's clothes, winter sweaters she'd meant to donate, Clayton found another prize. Her closet downstairs is still full, he said. Every dress, every pair of shoes, like she never planned to be gone long. He was right. I'd left everything exactly as it was. Couldn't bear to pack it up. Now I saw it differently. She'd taken suitcases to that motel, but her closet remained untouched, planning to come back. After what? After I lost the farm? After Marcus's plan played out? The afternoon light was fading when we came back downstairs. Clayton made coffee. The first time he'd done that since he was a teenager. We sat at the kitchen table with the burner phone and the pieces of a puzzle that were starting to form a picture I didn't want to see. Dad, Clayton said carefully, what if Mom was working with Marcus? What if this whole thing was planned? Then why did she die? Maybe she didn't. The words hung in the air like smoke. The funeral, I said. We buried her. A closed casket. You said the accident was bad, that the sheriff recommended. Stop. I couldn't hear this. Your mother died on Highway 12. I identified her belongings at the scene. Her purse, her wedding ring, but not her body, not her face. I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the February dusk was turning the snow blue. The field stretched empty toward the tree line. Everything I'd built, everything I thought I knew, crumbling. I need to talk to Rita, I said. Clayton drove me into town. At the photo lab, Rita was locking up. She saw us coming, unlocked the door. Hal, what's wrong? The camera, Donna's Nikon. You said it had 2 memory card slots. Rita nodded slowly. I need you to check something. I took the camera from my truck, where I'd been keeping it, handed it to her. Check everywhere, every compartment, every possible hiding place. Rita took it to her work table, turned on the bright lamp, examined every surface, every button, every panel, then she pressed something I couldn't see, removed the battery. Behind it, in a space barely big enough, was a second memory card. Rita slid the memory card into her computer. The screen filled with thumbnails, dozens of them. She clicked the first one open. Not motel photos, not affair documentation, legal documents, photographed page by page. Contracts, bank statements, property records, all featuring Marcus Vale's signature. And beside each document, sometimes in the same photo, other papers showing different names, different properties, different victims. He's done this before, Rita whispered. She clicked through them. Each set told the same story. Widow meets financial advisor. Financial advisor offers investment help. Joint accounts opened, property signed over, money disappears. 3 different women in 3 different counties. All over 60, all recently widowed, all left with nothing. Donna was building a case, Clayton said. She must have figured out what he was doing. The photos kept coming. Screenshots of emails, records of wire transfers, a spreadsheet tracking Marcus's shell companies, Vale Financial Services, Vale Investment Group, MV Holdings LLC. All the same person, moving money in circles. Then the final photos. Donna and Marcus at the county clerk's office. Her signing papers, him watching. But the angle was wrong. These weren't selfies or photos someone else took. These were surveillance shots. Someone else was documenting them, Rita said. Someone was following Donna while she was following Marcus. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Brennan, this is Rebecca Chen from Adult Protective Services. We received a report of concern about your welfare. Would it be possible for me to visit your home tomorrow morning? A report from who? The caller wished to remain anonymous, but they expressed worry about your mental state. Said you've been making paranoid accusations, showing signs of confusion. At your age, Mr. Brennan, sometimes these symptoms indicate I'm 64, not 90, and I'm not confused. And of course, but the law requires us to follow up on all reports. Tomorrow at 10, it's just a wellness check, completely routine. I hung up, looked at Clayton and Rita. They're going to declare you incompetent, Clayton said. That's the play. Get you declared unfit to manage your affairs, appoint a guardian, and that guardian will sell the farm to Marcus. I sat down hard. Game over. Rita was still clicking through photos. She stopped on one, enlarged it. Hal, look at this. The image showed a reflection in a window. Donna taking a photo of documents, and in the glass behind her, a man with a camera pointed at her. Professional rig, long telephoto lens. Someone was watching her investigate Marcus, Rita said. Someone knew what she was doing. She kept scrolling, found a photo that made her breath catch. A business card, photographed clear enough to read. FBI, Special Agent Maria Torres, Financial Crimes Division. Call that number, I said, right now. Rita dialed, put it on speaker. 4 rings, then voicemail. She left a message, explaining who we were, what we'd found, asked for a call back. We waited in her shop. The streetlight outside flickered on as dusk settled. The smell of fixer solution and coffee mixed in the cold air. Nobody spoke. 20 minutes later, Rita's phone rang. This is Agent Torres. Who am I speaking with? Rita explained. I listened, my heart hammering. Mr. Brennan, Torres said, I need you to listen carefully. Do not discuss this investigation with anyone. Don't mention my name. Don't mention the FBI. Can you do that? What investigation? A long pause. How much do you know about your wife's activities? I know Marcus Vale was scamming her, taking her money. I have photos. Mr. Brennan, Torres cut me off. Your wife wasn't being scammed. She was our confidential informant. The room tilted. What? Donna came to us last March. Said she'd figured out a financial fraud pattern involving elderly widows. We verified her information, opened an investigation. She agreed to go undercover, get close to Marcus, document his operation from the inside. That's impossible. She would have told me. What we specifically instructed her not to, for your protection and hers. Undercover operations require absolute secrecy. Torres's voice softened. I'm sorry, Mr. Brennan. I know this is a shock. She died in November, car accident. So your investigation didn't end. Mr. Brennan, I need to tell you something, and you need to stay very calm. Your wife didn't die in that accident. The fluorescent lights buzzed. Outside, a car passed. Normal sounds in a world that had stopped making sense. I was at her funeral. You were at a funeral. Closed casket, correct? Handled by Carson Mortuary? Yes. Carson Mortuary has been cooperating with federal investigations for 15 years. When we need to establish a death for witness protection purposes, they're one of our resources. Witness protection. The words didn't connect to anything real. Donna got too close to Marcus. He became suspicious. We had to pull her out fast, establish her death, relocate her before Marcus could act. Torres paused. There's something else you need to know. As part of her agreement with us, Donna testified in a sealed deposition. About you. About me. She told us you were abusive, controlling, that you'd threatened her if she tried to leave, that the quitclaim deed and the bank accounts were her way of securing escape money because she was afraid of what you'd do if you found out. Torres's voice stayed level, professional. She said you had firearms, that you'd mentioned taking care of problems permanently regarding the farm. She painted a very specific picture, Mr. Brennan, one that made you look extremely dangerous. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. That's a lie. I know. Torres's voice changed. Or at least, I'm starting to think I know, because the evidence doesn't match her testimony. The photos she gave us show Marcus's crimes, but they also show something else. They show her participating, setting up accounts, signing documents. Your wife wasn't just our informant, Mr. Brennan. She was Marcus's partner. And when we got too close, she used us to disappear with her share of the money. The phone nearly slipped from my hand. Where is she? I can't tell you that. She's in protective custody pending further investigation. But Mr. Brennan, the deposition she gave, the testimony against you, we're now questioning all of it, which means we need to talk. In person, tomorrow, and we need everything you found. Every photo, every document, every piece of evidence. I have a wellness check from Adult Protective Services tomorrow morning. That's Marcus. Torres said it with certainty. He's trying to get you declared incompetent before you can fight back. We'll handle it. I'll be there at 9, 1 hour before the social worker. Can you do that? Yes. And, Mr. Brennan, don't trust anyone except the people in that room with you right now. Marcus has reach you don't understand yet. County officials, business owners, even church leadership. He's been operating in your community for 3 years. He owns pieces of everyone. The line went dead. I looked at Clayton, at Rita, both of them staring at me. Your mother's alive, I said to Clayton, and she tried to destroy me. Clayton drove me home through the dark. Neither of us spoke for the first 10 miles. The headlights caught snow piled along the road edges, dirty and melting. March was trying to push winter out, but winter wasn't ready to go. Did you know? I finally asked. Did she ever say anything to you about leaving? About being afraid of me? No. Clayton's hands tightened on the wheel. But I wasn't exactly reliable these past few years. Maybe she tried to tell me, and I was too high to listen. We pulled into the farm. The house lights were on. I'd left them burning when we rushed to Rita's. They looked warm from outside, welcoming. Inside would be different. Inside was the place where my wife had plotted against me for months, maybe years. In the kitchen, Clayton made coffee while I sat at the table, the same table where Donna and I had eaten breakfast every morning for 38 years, where we'd paid bills, planned harvests, argued about whether to upgrade equipment or save money, all of it ordinary, all of it, apparently, a lie. I keep thinking about things she said, I told Clayton. Little comments. We should simplify, Hal. Sell some of the acreage, make life easier. You're not getting any younger. Maybe it's time to retire. I thought she was worried about me, about my health. She was setting you up. Clayton set a mug in front of me, making it look natural when you lost everything. The concerned wife trying to get her stubborn husband to slow down. 38 years, my voice cracked. Was any of it real? Did she ever love me, or was I just, what? A mark from the beginning? Clayton sat down across from me. He looked older in the kitchen light. The years of addiction had carved lines in his face, but there was something else there now, too. Something steadier. I don't know, Dad. But I know this, if you expose her, you destroy the family name completely. Everyone will know. The whole county. Beyond. Mom wasn't just cheating, she was a criminal. A con artist. Our family becomes the people everyone talks about. The cautionary tale. He stared into his coffee. I've already shamed this family enough with my addiction. If this comes out, there's no recovering. Not for you, not for me, not for any Brennan who comes after. He was right. I could see it already. The whispers in church, the looks in town. Poor Hal Brennan, married to a thief for 40 years and never knew it. Poor Clayton Brennan, his mother was a criminal and his father was a fool. The land might survive, but the name wouldn't. So what do I do? I asked. Let her win? Let Marcus take the farm, spend my last years in some apartment in town while they sell off. 4 generations of work for development? No. Clayton met my eyes. But you have to decide what victory looks like. Is it vengeance? Public vindication? Everyone knowing Donna betrayed you? He paused. Or is it just getting the farm back? Keeping the land? Living the rest of your life in peace? I thought about that. About what I wanted. What I needed. I want to plant corn this spring, I said finally. On my land. With my name on the deed. I want Marcus in prison where he belongs. And I stopped. I want to know when it started. When Donna stopped being my wife and became his accomplice. I need to know if there was ever anything real. You might never get that answer. I know. We sat in silence. Outside, the wind picked up. A branch scraped against the window. The old maple that Donna had wanted to cut down 3 years ago. Said it was too close to the house, might fall in a storm. I'd refused. Now I wondered if she'd wanted it gone because Marcus had a buyer lined up for the lumber. My phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't recognize. Agent Torres, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Come alone. Tell no one. Another text immediately after. Bring all evidence. Photos, phone, documents. Wear normal clothes. Act normal. Marcus is watching. I showed Clayton. You trust her? He asked. No. No. But what choice do I have? You could run, take what money's left, sell the equipment, leave tonight, start over somewhere else. I looked around the kitchen, the yellow walls Donna had painted, the table my father had built, the window that looked out over fields my grandfather had cleared with a mule team, and determination. I've never lived anywhere else, what I said. This is the only home I've ever known. If I run, Marcus wins, Donna wins, and everything my family built means nothing. Then you fight, Clayton stood up, and I'll help, whatever it takes. You should go, before this gets worse. You've got your sobriety to protect. A job, a life that doesn't include your parents' mess. My mess is already here, Dad. Has been for years. Maybe this is how I make it right. He reached across the table, put his hand on mine. I owe you better than I've given. Let me help. I couldn't speak, just nodded. That night, I barely slept. Kept thinking about Agent Torres's words. She painted a very specific picture, one that made you look extremely dangerous. Donna had set the trap perfectly. If anything happened to her, anything real, I'd be the first suspect. Abusive husband, controlling, threatening. The FBI had testimony, evidence, a motive. And if she was alive somewhere in witness protection, spinning her stories, I had no way to defend myself except with photographs from a camera I'd found in my own barn. Photographs that could be dismissed as creations, manipulations, desperate attempts by a guilty man, unless Agent Torres believed me, unless the FBI was willing to admit they'd been conned. At dawn, I heard Clayton moving around in the guest room. The smell of coffee drifted up the stairs. I dressed in my normal clothes, work jeans, flannel shirt, the jacket with the feed store logo. Tried to act normal, whatever that meant anymore. Agent Torres arrived at exactly 9 o'clock. She drove an unmarked sedan, dressed in a dark suit that looked wrong against the farm backdrop. She was maybe 45, with short dark hair and eyes that missed nothing. Clayton started to follow us into the house. "Just Mr. Brennan," Torres said, not unkind, but firm. Inside, she set up a recording device on the kitchen table, pulled out a thick folder, a laptop, a digital camera. "Before we begin," she said, "I need you to understand something. What I'm about to ask you to do is dangerous. Marcus Vale has killed before. Not directly, but through manipulation. A witness in Ohio died in a convenient car accident last year. Another in Indiana had a heart attack 2 months before trial. The medical examiner called it natural causes, but the timing was suspicious." My throat went dry. "Donna's accident, we don't think it was an accident. We think Marcus staged it to get her out, to make her disappear before she could testify against him. He needed her gone, but he also needed her alive to access the money she'd helped him steal. Witness protection gave him the perfect solution. So they worked together to fake her death. Yes, and to frame you as the reason she had to run." Torres opened her laptop, turned it toward me. "This is your wife's deposition, recorded 2 weeks before her supposed death. I want you to watch it. Then I want you to tell me if you'll help us trap them both." She pressed play. Donna's face filled the screen, alive, real, speaking in the calm, measured voice I'd known for almost 4 decades. "My husband has become increasingly unstable. He's made threats about what he'll do if I try to leave. He has firearms. He's mentioned solving problems permanently. And I'm terrified of what he might do if he discovers I've been moving assets for my own protection." As I watched my wife destroy me with lies. When it ended, Torres closed the laptop. "Will you wear a wire?" she asked. "Will you confront Marcus, get him to confess on tape? It's the only way we can break this open. The only way to prove your wife lied to us." I looked at her recording device, at the evidence spread across my kitchen table, at the life I'd built crumbling into pieces I'd have to reassemble alone. What do I have to do? Agent Torres fitted the wire herself. A small microphone taped to my chest, transmitter clipped to my belt under my shirt. Her hands were professional, efficient, but I still felt violated, exposed. "Marcus will come if you call him," she said. "Tell him you're ready to negotiate, that you want to settle this quietly, avoid lawyers. Men like him can't resist when they think they've won. What if he searches me, finds the wire?" "He won't. He thinks you're a broken old man. He thinks you've given up." Torres tested the equipment, her voice coming through a speaker in her surveillance van. "Remember, get him talking about the quitclaim deed, the bank accounts. Donna, get him to brag." "They always do." Clayton stood by the window watching the road. Torres had positioned her team in the barn, in the tree line, in an unmarked car half a mile down the road. The farm was surrounded by federal agents, but I'd never felt more alone. I called Marcus at 10. He answered on the second ring. "Hal, I was hoping to hear from you. We need to talk. About the farm. About settling this." "I'm listening." His voice held barely concealed satisfaction. "Not on the phone. Come to the house. This afternoon." A pause. "I'll be there at 2. The hours between crawled. Clayton made sandwiches neither of us could eat. Torres reviewed the plan 3 more times. I sat at the kitchen table, touching things. The salt shaker Donna had bought at a craft fair, the placemat with coffee stains from 1,000 breakfasts, the chair where she'd sat across from me pretending to be my wife. At 1:50, Marcus's Lexus appeared at the end of the driveway. Torres's voice crackled in the tiny earpiece they'd given me. "Remember, stay calm. Let him talk. We need him to incriminate himself." Marcus knocked. I opened the door. He looked different today. More confident. He walked into my kitchen like he already owned it, set his leather briefcase on the table, smiled. "I'm glad you came to your senses, Hal. This doesn't have to be ugly. Sit down." My voice came out steadier than I felt. He sat, pulled out papers. "I've prepared a settlement offer. You sign over your remaining interest in the property, and I'll forgive the outstanding loan balance. $47,000. You walk away clean. And what do I get? Peace. A chance to start over. At your age, that's worth something." He pushed the papers toward me. "You could rent an apartment in town, live on Social Security, maybe find some part-time work at the feed store. Wade Murphy's always looking for help. This farm has been in my family for 4 generations, and now it's time to let it go." Marcus leaned back, comfortable. Hal, let me be frank. You lost this fight the moment Donna signed that quitclaim deed. Everything since has just been delay. You had no idea what she was doing. That's what makes this so perfect. What was she doing? I kept my voice level, curious, not confrontational. Being smarter than you. Marcus smiled. Donna understood something you never did. This farm, it's just land, assets, value to be extracted. She saw that. We saw that together. So it was always a partnership. You and Donna. A partnership. He savored the word. I prefer to think of it as a meeting of minds. Donna came to me last year with a problem. She was stuck on a failing farm with a husband, too stubborn to modernize, too proud to admit he couldn't make it work anymore. She wanted out, but she needed financial security first. And you helped her get it. We helped each other. I showed her how to create investment accounts, how to use her access to your finances, how to leverage the property without you noticing. She was brilliant, Hal. Absolutely brilliant. Every document she signed, every account she opened, you never suspected a thing. When my hands clenched under the table, Torres's voice in my ear. Keep going. We need more. The refinance application. When did she sign that? October. We needed to move fast. The original plan was to let you discover the affair naturally, let you file for divorce, split assets. But then the FBI started sniffing around, some pattern they'd noticed in other cases, similar structures. That's when Donna suggested the accident. My blood went cold. Suggested it? Brilliant, really. We stage a car crash, establish her death. She disappears into witness protection with her share of the money. The FBI thinks they're protecting a victim. I consolidate the properties. 6 months later, she resurfaces with a new identity. We meet up in Costa Rica or Panama. She lives well, I live well, and you, he gestured around the kitchen. You lose a farm you couldn't maintain anyway. Everyone wins. Except me. You were always going to lose, Hal. One way or another. Age, economics, bad weather. Something was going to take this place. We just accelerated the timeline. And the testimony she gave the FBI about me being abusive? Marcus's smile widened. That was my favorite part. Insurance, you see. If you got too close to figuring things out, if you made noise, the FBI already has testimony that you're dangerous, unstable. Any accident that happens to you looks exactly like what Donna predicted. The abusive husband finally snaps. He leaned forward. You're a dead man walking, Hal. You just don't know it yet. The kitchen door burst open. Federal agents, nobody move! Marcus's face went white. He lunged for his briefcase, but Torres was faster. 2 agents had him on the floor before he could stand, hands cuffed behind his back. Marcus Vale, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. Torres's voice was flat, professional. You have the right to remain silent. Marcus twisted his head to look at me, saw the wire under my open flannel shirt. Understanding and rage flooded his face. You set me up. Everything you just said was recorded, Torres told him, including the part where you admitted to staging a death and planning to kill Mr. Brennan. Take him. They hauled Marcus out. His expensive shoes scraped across my kitchen floor. Through the window, I watched them load him into an unmarked car. Clayton came in from where he'd been hiding in the basement, put a hand on my shoulder. Torres disconnected the wire, coiling it efficiently. That was good work, Mr. Brennan. Very controlled. What happens now? Now we deal with your wife. Torres pulled out her phone. She's been watching all of this from a secure location. We wanted her to see Marcus's arrest, hear his confession. She doesn't know yet that you were wearing a wire. Doesn't know we have Marcus admitting she was his partner. You're still protecting her. Not for long. Torres made a call, spoke briefly, hung up. She's agreed to meet with me. 1 hour. Claims she wants to make a new statement, cooperate fully now that Marcus has been arrested. She thinks she can spin this, make herself the victim again. Can I be there? Torres considered. Yes. But you can't speak, can't react. She needs to believe we're still on her side until she gives us everything we need. An hour later, I sat in a conference room at the FBI field office in Columbus. One-way glass let me see into the interrogation room without being seen. Torres and another agent sat across from Donna, my wife, alive, wearing clothes I'd never seen, her hair cut shorter, but unmistakably her. The woman I'd loved for 38 years. The woman who'd tried to destroy me. Torres laid out papers on the table. Mrs. Brennan, now that Marcus Vale has been arrested, we need to revisit your testimony. There are some inconsistencies we'd like to clarify. Of course. Donna's voice. God. Her voice. I want to help however I can. Marcus manipulated me, you understand. I thought I was helping with legitimate financial planning, but he... Mrs. Brennan. Torres cut her off. We have a recording of Marcus explaining how you and he planned everything together, how you staged your death, how you testified falsely about your husband to create insurance in case he discovered the fraud. Donna's face went blank. That's not... I never... He told us about the quitclaim deed you signed, the accounts you helped create, the refinance application. He told us the car accident was your idea, that you wanted witness protection so you could disappear with the money. Torres leaned forward. He confessed to everything, Mrs. Brennan, and he made it very clear that you were a full partner, not a victim. He's lying. He's trying to save himself by... Torres played the recording. Marcus's voice filled the room. Donna suggested the accident. She disappears into witness protection with her share of the money. She lives well. I live well. I watched Donna's face crumble, watched her realize the trap had closed. Your previous testimony is worthless now, Torres said. Everything you told us about your husband being abusive, threatening, dangerous, Marcus just confirmed, was fabrication. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to give us a new statement, a truthful one, and then you're going to be charged as Marcus's co-conspirator. I want a lawyer. That's your right. Torres stood. But understand this. Marcus is already cooperating, already telling us about the other victims, the other properties, the offshore accounts. First one to full cooperation gets the better deal. That's how this works. Through the glass, I watched Donna's shoulders shake, watched her cover her face with hands I'd held for almost 4 decades. Torres came out of the interrogation room, joined me at the window. She'll talk, Torres said. Give her an hour to think about prison time. She'll tell us everything. How long? I asked. How long was she planning this? We won't know until she talks. Could be years. Could be from the beginning. Torres looked at me. I'm sorry, Mr. Brennan. I know that's not the answer you want. It wasn't. But it was the only one I'd get. Torres handed me a document. Emergency order from a federal judge. Your agricultural permit has been approved. Planting deadline restored. The quitclaim deed has been voided as a fraudulent instrument. The farm is yours again, completely. I took the paper, stared at it. You have 48 hours until the optimal planning window closes, Torres said. I suggest you use them. The trial took 4 months to wind through the system, but the outcome was never in doubt. Marcus got 25 years federal prison, wire fraud, conspiracy, attempted murder through financial ruin. The judge added extra time when they discovered the other victims. 7 widows across 3 states, all told the same lies, all robbed the same way. Donna got 12 years. She'd tried to claim coercion at first, but the recordings made that impossible. Marcus's confession, her own text messages, the systematic way she documented everything for their mutual benefit. The prosecutor called her a predator who used her own marriage as cover for systematic theft. I attended the sentencing, sat in the back of the courtroom while my ex-wife, the divorce had been finalized in March, stood before the judge in an orange jumpsuit. She didn't look at me. Not once. Pastor Webb apologized publicly the Sunday after Marcus's arrest, used his sermon to talk about bearing false witness, about rushing to judgment, about the sin of choosing comfort over truth. Half the congregation came to the farm that week with casseroles and offers of help. The other half never mentioned it at all, like they'd never doubted me in the first place. Lenora Briggs organized a prayer chain, said she felt terrible about spreading gossip. She brought me a coconut cake, my favorite, and cried on my porch for 20 minutes. I forgave her, because holding grudges takes energy I didn't have anymore. The county clerk's office fired Trevor Vale, Marcus's cousin. Turned out he'd been taking bribes for 3 years, losing permit applications, delaying paperwork for anyone Marcus wanted to pressure. He took a plea deal, cooperated with the investigation. Last I heard, he was working at a gas station in Indiana. Rita refused to take payment for any of her work. Said she was just glad she could help someone the way nobody had helped her mother. We have coffee sometimes at the diner. She's teaching me about photography. Says I should document the farm the way Donna did, but for the right reasons this time. Clayton stayed. That was the biggest surprise. After the arrest, after everything settled, I expected him to leave. Go back to whatever construction job he'd been working. Back to his life away from the farm. But he didn't. I'd like to learn it, he said one morning in April. The farming, if you'll teach me. We planted corn together on April 29th. The emergency permit had arrived with 48 hours to spare, and we used every one of them. Clayton had never operated the big equipment before. I'd kept him away from it when he was using, afraid he'd hurt himself. Now I showed him how to start the tractor, how to feel the soil texture, how to set the seed depth. The morning was cold, but spring cold, not winter cold. The smell of diesel exhaust and fresh-turned earth mixed in the air. Robins had returned, building nests in the barn eaves. The fields stretched out before us, empty and ready. Why do we start in this corner? Clayton asked. Drainage. You always start high, work your way down. Let the water help you, not fight you. I showed him the field contours, the way my grandfather had taught my father had taught me. This land has memory. It knows what it needs. We worked until dusk, planting row after row. Clayton's hands learned the rhythm of it, throttle, clutch, watching the cedar behind us, adjusting for the terrain. When we finished the first field, he looked back at the straight rows with something like pride. "It's honest work," he said. That's all it ever was. That night, we sat on the porch with coffee and watched the sun set over newly planted fields. The temperature was dropping, we'd have frost warnings through the week, but the seeds were deep enough. They'd be fine. "Do you think you'll ever trust anyone again?" Clayton asked. After Mom, I thought about that. Donna had taken 38 years and turned them into questions I'd never be able to answer. Had she loved me on our wedding day? When Clayton was born? During the good years when the crops came in strong and the world felt manageable? Or had it all been performance, calculation, waiting for the right moment to cash out? I don't know, I said honestly. But I know this land doesn't lie. This work doesn't lie. Every spring, you plant. Every fall, you harvest. That's truth you can measure in your hands. That's not enough for most people. Maybe not, but it's enough for me right now. 3 weeks later, I sat on the porch at dawn with my coffee. The rain gauge showed 2 inches from last night's storm. Good for the seedlings. I'd started keeping a field notebook the way my mother had, recording weather, growth patterns, observations, continuing a tradition Donna had helped maintain, even if nothing else about her had been true. The first green shoots were visible now, tiny points of life pushing through soil. In another month, they'd be knee-high. By August, over my head. By October, ready for harvest. The cycle that had defined 4 generations of Brennans would continue into a 5th. Clayton came out of the barn, phone to his ear. He'd been talking to contractors about fixing the roof, getting quotes. He wanted to stay long-term, maybe build a small house on the back 40 acres. Have his own space but stay close enough to help with the work. We were negotiating terms. He wanted to buy in, become a real partner, not just hired help. "Morning, Dad." He poured himself coffee from the pot I kept on the porch table. "Contractor says he can start next week." "Good." We sat in comfortable silence. A red-tailed hawk circled over the eastern pasture, hunting. The wind carried the smell of growing things, damp earth, possibility. Marcus Vale would spend the next 25 years in federal prison. Donna would serve 12, maybe less with good behavior. They'd tried to take everything, and in a way they had. They'd taken my certainty, my trust, my belief that I knew the person sleeping beside me for almost 4 decades. But they hadn't taken the land, hadn't taken the work, hadn't taken the knowledge passed down through generations, or the satisfaction of watching seeds become harvest. The farm remembered who'd loved it and who'd tried to sell it. That memory lived in soil composition, in drainage patterns my grandfather had established, in the barn my father built with his own hands. Some battles you win with noise and fury. This one I'd won with patience, photographs, and a dead woman's camera that turned out to hold more truth than her living voice ever had. But the real victory wasn't in the winning, it was in the staying. In the morning coffee, in the rain gauge, in the field notebook that would outlast us all. Clayton stood up, stretched, ready to check the North 40. "Let's go." We walked toward the truck together, father and son, starting another day of the work that never ended and never lied. The land remembered. And now, so would we. They ask me sometimes, the folks in town, if I regret those 38 years. If knowing how it ended makes the beginning meaningless, I don't have a clean answer for that. There were true things in our marriage. I have to believe that. The morning Donna held our newborn son and cried with joy. The afternoon we bought this farm and stood in an empty field, dreaming about what we'd build. The quiet evenings on this same porch, watching seasons change, talking about nothing important. Maybe those moments were real. Maybe they were performance. I'll never know, and I've made peace with that uncertainty. What I know for certain is this. The corn doesn't care who planted last year's crop. It just grows toward the sun, straight and true, following patterns older than human deception. Clayton's learning that now. Learning to read soil texture, to judge moisture, to understand what the land needs before it asks. He's got his mother's attention to detail, but he's choosing to use it for building instead of breaking. That feels like redemption of a sort. The daffodils I planted on Donna's false grave, or what I thought was her grave, I dug them up in April, transplanted them to my mother's actual resting place 2 rows over. They're blooming there now, yellow and bright against gray stone. My mother would have liked that. She always said to check the paperwork, measure twice, trust what you can prove. She was right about that. Right about most things. Some nights I still wake up angry. Angry at the years stolen. the trust weaponized, the life I thought we'd shared revealed as calculation. But anger is exhausting, and there's too much work to do, so I plant instead. I measure rainfall and record temperatures and teach my son the knowledge my father taught me. I build something that will outlast the betrayals, something that grows toward light without lying about its nature. The land remembers who loved it and who tried to sell it. 4 generations of Brennans have worked this soil with honest hands. That truth runs deeper than any lie Donna ever told. And when my time comes, whenever that is, my son will plant the next season's crop. The work continues. The land endures. That's the only victory that matters.